Hello, I'm Cass. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the beginning of year book tag. This is a book tag that was created by Larry Reads, and I thought it was really fun. And if there's something that I am all for, it's bringing back tags, because I used to watch BookTube during like peak tag videos, and it was so fun. And then by the time I actually started making videos myself, tags were no longer like a common thing. So any excuse to do a tag video I'm going to take, and so I hope that y'all enjoy. I have the list of questions on my phone. I'm just going to go ahead and read them, one by one, answer the questions. There's 18 questions, so kind of a long tag. I don't know how long it'll actually take me to chat through them all. Probably not that long, but let's go ahead and start with question 1, which is how many books do you plan to read in 2025? Now, I typically always set my goal at 100. As of a few years ago, I've just decided 100 is the goal. However, goal is kind of a very loose term because I just kind of read, and if I don't read 100 books, I don't really care. I never work towards reading 100 books. I just so happen to read around 100 books. But again, it's never a true goal that I'm invested in reaching. Literally, it's just fun if I get the confetti on Goodreads, and if I don't, I'm like, well, there's always next year. I feel like numbered reading goals are always very controversial, and I only really feel this at the end of the year and at the beginning of the year with like the numbered reading goals, because people are always like, recommend me short stories where I can like reach my reading goal. And I think we should really value quality over quantity instead of just trying to read as many books as you can. Really be thoughtful about the selections of novels that you're picking up. But again, that's just my opinion, and if y'all want to read 200, 300 books and that is your one and only goal, like, who am I to judge what you do with your reading? I am not that invested. I just thought I'd give you a little slice of my opinion. I thought I'd go ahead and just like preface it that even though I'm setting my goal at 100, I am entirely uninvested in reaching this goal, and I just want to make that abundantly clear. And it's just like a mindset that I feel like maybe more people should have, but again, who am I to judge? Now, the second question is, what is a book you are likely to reread this year? And honestly, anything on my bookcase that I've already read can fall victim to my rereading perils, because I am a huge rereader. And a couple years ago, I want to say, I made it a goal to try to not reread as much. And it was fun. I got to read a lot more new novels, which is always delightful. And then last year, I fell back into my rereading a little bit more, and already this year I've reread so many books. But I just find comfort in reading something that I've already been, especially when my life is super busy and it spirals out of control. I find that rereading something that I know I love just brings me so much comfort, and that's really all I want from my books, is just comfort and joy. So who am I to stop myself from rereading? However, I do try to strike a good balance between new reads and rereads. Doesn't always happen, but I don't want to always be reading the same thing over and over again, because I would have never discovered so many of my new favorites if I just continued to reread the novels that I had already read. But one of the novels that I feel like is most likely to be picked up again is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Now, I rated this series, I want to say I gave this one like 4.25 or 4.5, and the second one like a 4.75. But this series has been living in my head rent-free since I read it a couple of years ago, and I just feel like it's due for a reread. I read this one back in 2023, and then A Fire Endless I read last year in 2024. So, been enough time that I feel like I want to dive back into this world. I adored the magic system in this book. It takes place on a magical island called Cadence, and there's two opposing rival clans. There's elemental magic, and it's heavily inspired by Scottish folklore, and the romance in this book is just delightful. We get newfound romance, young love, old love rekindled. There's just so much love in this book, but I wouldn't describe it as a romance. I think that the plot is very much so forward, so it's more fantasy with a subplot of romance, but the romance is just written so incredibly well, and I absolutely adore Rebecca Ross's writing, so I'm so excited to probably and hopefully dive back into this world and give it a good reread. Question number 3 is a priority on your 2025 TBR. Now, I actually have an entire video dedicated to my entire 2025 entire 2025 TBR. I think it was 16 books that I wanted to read in 2025, and this was actually not one that was on there. However, it definitely is a priority and one that I'm trying to dive back into very soon, and that is the rest of the Stormlight Archives, because I am 2 books in, absolutely loving it. The 5th book recently came out. I have been living in FOMO for a month now. It's been brutal, and I've just been wanting to dive back into Stormlight because I say this every time I read a book in Stormlight. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to dive into the next book like immediately, and then I never do. Also, I'm realizing that this has a flip out map. Y'all, I love maps so much. This is stunning, quite frankly. This is beautiful. I just didn't realize that it was in there. My other ones didn't have a flip out map. And it's got pretty artwork. Sorry. I'm loving this series so much. I'm a little scared, but also not. So overall, from the people that I've talked to, 1 and 2 are their like favorite books. And then once Oathbringer hits, their enjoyment kind of starts, you know, going downhill. Not by much though, because it is Brandon Sanderson, but they're just not as good as books 1 and 2. Words of Radiance was my favorite book from last year, so I'm really hoping that Oathbringer will continue that momentum. Honestly, I don't know, because I've also heard from people that Oathbringer was their favorite, and then I've also heard from people that like Rhythm of War was their favorite. So honestly, I have no idea how I'm gonna feel about this. I wanna say it focuses heavily on Dalinar in this book, who honestly grew on me last book, but in the first book, I found his POV incredibly boring, so I'm hoping that it'll be interesting. So Stormlight is definitely a priority. It has been a priority for the past like few years, but we're just now getting around to it, and honestly, it's a crime that I'm not caught up in the series at this point. Question 4 is an author you won't be reading more of this year, and I don't like that negative attitude, although I also couldn't think of anything, so I thought I would say an author that I will be reading more of, even though technically I didn't really read much from them last year, and that's India Holton. Now, I actually started the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrel, and I made it 10 chapters in, and I really enjoyed their writing. However, I didn't finish this book, and I want to, and I also really want to read the something something field guide to romance, and then the Geographer's Map. No, I'm combining too many titles. The Geographer's Map. I'm like combining the Indian Holton book with the Heather Fawcett book, which is Map of the Otherlands, but I cannot for the life of me think of the other title. The Geographer's Map to Love? To Romance? I'll just pop it up on the screen for you know what I'm talking about. I'm really, really excited about this book, although I've literally read 10 chapters from India Holton. I just found her writing to be delightful. I found the sense of humor to be right up my alley, and I think I'm really going to enjoy diving more into her books. Which also kind of leads me into the next question, which is something new you want to read, and I want to read more historical romances. I found that I tend to enjoy historical romances more than I feel like more modern day romanticises, and I don't know if that's because a lot of romanticises haven't been hitting because of how quickly the romance builds up, and I love a good slow burn, and historical romances always have a good slow burn because for propriety's sake they have to have a slow burn, and I want to pick more up because when I was reviewing the books that I read last year, I realized that I really, really enjoyed the historical romances that I did pick up, and I just don't tend to reach for that genre. Most of those that I did read were recommended from Katie, who I feel like does read a lot more historical romances than I do, and that's typically where I get the recommendations from. So I would love to know if any of y'all have some good like historical romances that you recommend, or if I'm gonna have to go hunting for more myself. A popular book that I really want to read in 2025 is Project Hail Mary. I've heard nothing but incredible things about this. People have been telling me that I have to listen to the audiobook and read it at the same time because the experience will just be top notch, and I've heard this is just such a pinnacle of science fiction, and I cannot wait. I adore sci-fi, and I think that I will really, really enjoy this book. I'm pretty sure this is the novel that takes place, I was gonna say it takes place in space. Like, of course it takes place in space, but the main character, I believe, wakes up and has no recollection of what happened. I think he's surrounded by corpses, and he apparently is tasked with like saving Earth, so no pressure, but also, you know, a lot of pressure. I just think I'm gonna love this book, especially because a lot of people that I watch who don't typically reach for sci-fi absolutely ate this up, and you know, I enjoy sci-fi, so I think I am going to love this. Question 9 is a book on your TBR that you probably won't ever read. And honestly, my motto is never say never, because I have picked up books that I never in my life thought that I would read, and then I ended up reading them. So, you know, never say never. However, this particular series has been on my TBR for ages. I'm talking since middle school, okay? And I still have not read it. Or I've read the first one, which is Aragon. However, I have yet to crack open the spines of any of the rest of the series. And again, I've been trying to read this series since middle school. Like, that is how long this series has been on my TBR, and it's yet to happen. And honestly, it's a tragedy, I feel like. I need to do some sort of dedicated challenge or like something to get myself to pick up this series, because every time I read it, because I've reread this book twice now, I've enjoyed it. I've thought it was fun, and I think I would enjoy the rest of the series. I also, miraculously, have never been spoiled about what goes down in this series, so I'm going in blind. Even though this book series has been out for years and years and years, and I've been meaning to read it for years and years and years, just hasn't happened yet. Never say never, okay? Just every year that passes, the likelihood of me picking up Aragon just gets slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. Question 10 is a series that you want to read this year. I actually have a lot of series that I want to read this year. In fact, in a few weeks, I'll be having a video come out with like a list of all the series I'm in the middle of and series I want to complete, so keep an eye out for that. But one that's more of a, I wouldn't want to say priority. I mean, I mentioned Stormlight already, but Founderside by Robert Jackson Bennett, I've really wanted to complete since reading the first book. I just haven't got around to picking up the second book. I think I started the second book, and then I think my library copy was due, and then I just never got around to reborrowing it. Yeah, it's a whole thing, you know? I would love to complete that series, as well as Red Rising, although I feel like I need to reread the first book because it's been a couple of years since I've read the first book, that my memory is a little hazy about what goes down. But again, it's a sci-fi series that I feel like I will enjoy. I just actually have to read the book in order to do that. So we'll say Founderside and Red Rising are two series that I want to complete this year. Question 11 is your auto-buy authors going into 2025. And most of my auto-buy authors are romance writers, because even if I don't enjoy one of their books, I just invest a lot less time into reading romance books because I can read them so quickly that typically if they wrong me, I'm not as upset if like a high fantasy author and I read like 800 pages of their novel and then realize that I didn't enjoy it. Like, I'm not as burned, you know, if a romance writer like has a bit of a dud compared to like a fantasy writer. I know that's probably not the best way to judge my authors. It just that's how it works. So Abby Jimenez is an auto-buy author for me right now. Emily Henry is an auto-buy author for me. Jen DeLuca, although I haven't got around to reading her newest book. Ali Hazelwood, but honestly, she's kind of teetering on the edge of being dropped off the list like Elena's Armas was for me, because her recent couple of books have been a bit of a dud. Alright, so we'll see how I feel about Deep End, and if that one's not for me, I'm gonna have to really wait after her books come out to see the general consensus, because again, I've been burned maybe one too many times by Miss Ali Hazelwood. But her earlier books, Brandon Sanderson obviously is an auto-buy author in terms of like fantasy. I'm trying to like look at my bookshelf and think of any other potential like auto-buy authors. Oh, you know who else? Patrick Rothfuss. If he ever publishes another book, we'll see. It's very doubtful. We'll just say he's on the list, just because. Although I really don't think he's ever going to come out with a third book in the Kingkiller Chronicles, but you know what? We've accepted that. Okay. Question 12 is a book to show adaptation that you're excited about. Honestly, I just don't really get excited about book adaptations like I used to. I remember being really excited about Percy Jackson, and then I watched one episode and found it boring, and then I was like, well, I guess that isn't for me. And I have been chasing the high that the Shadow and Bone Netflix show had given me during 2021. Like, that was so fun, and then they canceled it for no reason. So I've just learned not to get very invested, and I feel like a lot of book to movie adaptations these days have just been miss after miss. So I'm not that invested, but I'm pretty sure People We Meet on Vacation is getting a book adaptation this year. I don't know if it's coming out in 2025. I just did a Google search and they said that it would be potentially coming out this year. I really enjoyed People We Meet on Vacation. I'm really curious to see how it would be portrayed, and hopefully it's fun and hopefully it's cute I don't think it's gonna be like a new favorite or anything, but it's the only book that I could find that I was even remotely interested in with like the book to movie adaptation. But again, I didn't really Google like that deep into like what was potentially in the pipeline for movies coming out in 2025 because I'm not a big movie person. So this was just like one of the first ones that I came across, if we're being honest here. Question 13 is a sequel you're anticipating, and actually the sequel is already out. I'm just anticipating reading it, and that is Heavenly Tyrant by Sharon J. Zhao. Now, this is Iron Widow. Obviously, this is first book. I need to do a reread of this though, because I don't not remember what goes down, but I also just need a refresher on all the details because I feel like because it's just a duology, I don't mind doing a reread of the first one, and it's such a brutal world, and I'm really excited to see how Sharon J. Zhao they wrap things up because I feel like it'll be good and I'm excited. So anticipating the sequel, even though the sequel is technically already out. I just need to get my hands on a copy. Question 14 is bookish things you are leaving in 2024. There's a couple things. The first one is trying to read less popular books, which honestly will probably not happen because sometimes popular books are popular for a reason, and sometimes you want those books that you can go in and not have a critical mind about and just enjoy for what they are. And I like reading those books every now and then. I don't need to go into every single book that I read with a critical mind, like just wanting to, you know, have commentary on it. Sometimes I just want to read for fun, and that is a-okay. I also theoretically, even though I know earlier I was like, rereading is fun and cool and fine, I would love to reread less than I did last year. Although again, when my life is out of control, rereading is always something that grounds me because it's like a familiar story and a familiar comfort. Instead of like a comfort TV show, I have just like comfort books that I like to pick up. But another thing that I would love to leave in 2024 is being mad about reading slumps. Now, this is always really difficult because obviously I do YouTube, and to do booktube, I have to read books. So when I'm in a slump, it's always really frustrating because I can't make videos. Because if I can't read books, I can't make videos about books. So it's always like a very fine balance of like why I'm mad about reading slumps. Previously, I never would even care about being in a reading slump. I'd just be like, all right, I have plenty of other hobbies to keep me occupied. Why don't I do one of those? But because booktube revolves around books, when I can't read, it's very difficult to make videos. However, I have learned when my book slumps typically hit, and I just feel like I need to not be mad about that and just accept that when summer comes along, I will be in a reading slump. So June hits, I just need to dive into other hobbies and accept that maybe my reading is gonna be a little bit less. Maybe I will be putting out less videos in the summer. Who knows? I think anticipating my slumps will be nice. So I need to leave being mad about the reading slumps back in 2024. Question 15 is what to expect from this account. Well, hello. Please expect videos from me and nothing more. I mean, obviously, I would love to do more sit-down, chatty, chill sort of videos because I don't always have the energy to film a reading vlog, but sometimes I just lack ideas for videos. So if y'all ever have ideas of things that you want to see besides reading vlogs, because those will always happen, message me, comment down below, do whatever. But I'm always open to hearing that. Potentially you'll get less videos from me this year. I'm trying to have more of a healthy balance with like my work and my life, which I say but never do. I am not a full-time YouTuber. I'm not a full-time anything at this point right now. I just have a lot of part-time jobs that I do, but I am working for myself full-time right now, so that's fun. Along with doing YouTube as like a part-time thing, I also do fantasy cartography, so I draw maps for books. So that keeps me busy because those take literally forever. And I'm just needing to find hobbies that I'm not constantly filming for videos. So if you see me a little bit less, I don't know, because I like the consistency of YouTube and I like always, you know, posting every single Monday. But I'm trying to be a little bit more relaxed about that because again, it's not like my full-time job. However, every like Monday that I don't post, I feel guilty because I'm like, wait, like what if there's people waiting for my videos and I didn't film anything. So I'm trying to be more relaxed about not posting and not feeling guilty, but we'll see. Honestly, most likely during the summer, like you might see me less, you might see me more. Actually, you probably won't see me more, but you'll probably see me less. I don't know. So what to expect from this account? Not even I know properly. Question 16 is how has your reading taste evolved from last year? Honestly, I don't think it's evolved that much. Honestly, looking back sometimes, like the year prior, I'm always like, what did I read throughout the year? Like, did I even read anything? I'm gonna try to read more outside my comfort zone, although again, comfort zones are comfortable for a reason. Like, you are not gonna see me branching out to like horror or anything like that, but again, with like the historical romances, maybe leaning more towards that, maybe picking up like a nonfiction or two, who knows? I'm such a mood reader, so honestly, like my reading tastes just kind of like evolve and devolve at the same time, so who knows? However, I feel like one thing that I did enjoy was books with more like purpley prose, because prior when I read things with like beautiful prose, I found it boring and slow, but I think I've come to appreciate writing a little bit more, so we'll say that as my answer. Question 17 is booktubers that inspire you. Everyone inspires me. I was making this list and I just realized I was like listing off all my friends. So obviously Katie's reading. She's parabatai, she's bestie. Mackenzie 901K, adore her. Jan Agaton. I'll just link all the channels below as well. Sid from Sid Bookworm. Jody, love Jody. Faith from Faith Reads Things. And Christiane Jones, I adore. Although she's kind of a mix of booktube and like I don't know what writing YouTube is, but like she's a writer as well as a reader, so her as well. Reagan from Perused Project, she's really great. I love her videos. She's always reading some really good books that I'm always like, I should pick that up. She's also the reason why I want to give Robin Hobb another try, because she just absolutely adores the entire, like, I don't remember what the name of that, Realm of the Elderling? Is that right? Elfling? Elderling? Something like that. The Robin Hobb books, she adores them. Oh, Leora Eileen, her videos are just, they're like mini movies. I adore her videos so much, and I know she's posting a lot less this year, which makes me very sad, but I understand. But she is wonderful. If you haven't watched her videos, they're addicting. Like, you'll watch one and then you'll like watch her whole catalog. It's wonderful. I feel like I just listed a lot of my friends, but I have no shame. You should go subscribe to every single one of them. Like I said, I will link them below so you can check them out. And then the last question, question 18 is, actually I don't remember what question 18, it was like, oh, something you want to say to anyone wanting to start a bookish account. Just do it. Like, if you really want to do it, just do it. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about creating like masterpieces. Some of my earlier videos, like this isn't even my first channel. I will never tell you the name of my old channel, and I have privated many of those videos, if not all of those videos, from my early channel, because you're just learning. You're not gonna just come out the gates really good at YouTube by any means, and it shouldn't really matter. Like, as long as you love what you're doing, like, yes, it's cool forming a community, and so many of you that comment like on every single video, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wow, you've really stuck around for that long. That's crazy, and it's so cool having this community. But again, if you want to do it, you should just do it, and you should enjoy the process, and the community will find you. You just have to be patient and not worry about the numbers, not try to focus so much on like growing your account. Just read books and make videos about them, and the audience will find you, and you will gradually like continue to improve. Trust me, the early videos that you post on the internet, you are going to be so proud of, and then years later you're going to look back and be like, wow, what was that? I can't believe people watched that. And that is okay, because even videos from a couple years ago I watch back and I'm like, yikes. So just enjoy the process and just do it, and don't get too caught up in it, and just, again, have fun, which is such solid advice. This is not an advice channel, okay? This is why I review books and I don't give life advice. I would be horrible at it. Anyways, those were all 18 questions that were on this book tag. Honestly, I love tags so much. It's like a mini Q&A, but very like focused. So beginning of the year book tag, very fun. Thank you so much again to Larry Reads for creating this tag. It was fun. I love yapping about books and things relating to books. So I hope that you all enjoyed. If you want to answer these questions in my comment section, please feel free. I know there's a lot, so if you want to just answer a couple, I'd be down to hear whatever. I'm always so invested in what y'all are reading. Sometimes you tell me like, oh, I'm going to read this book, and then a couple videos later you're like, oh, I finally read this book, and I love being invested in y'all's reading journey. So if you want to share, please feel free to, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Toodles!